Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to With Jewish Youth. And I'm very happy that you're with us tonight because tonight we have part two with Rabbi Zalman Posner. And for the sake of those who tuned in tonight for the first time, in other words, first time this week, let me tell you who my guest was last night. And I want to thank all you people for calling and for speaking to us and praising us for having such terrific guests. This is part of our business, to find those people who can make these programs most interesting. Rabbi Zalman Posner is from Nashville, Tennessee. He's the rabbi of the Orthodox community of Congregation Shearith Israel. He's the founder and head of the Hebrew Day School, the Akiva School in Nashville. He's the guest lecturer at the universities in Middle Tennessee. He has translated many numbers of Chabad Hasidic classics into English. He has done the two sections of Tanya. He has done works for the present Rebbe, the past two Rebbes, Zechenim Levroche. He has done numerous articles on Chabad, which have appeared in various publications. He has lectured in related subjects in 22 states of the United States, in Canada and Scotland, in London, Manchester, Italy, and Israel. Radio and TV work. He has appeared this weekend at the Encounter with Chabad, which is sponsored by Lubavitch Youth. And he is one of my very dear and closest friends and chaverim back yet from the days of the yeshiva. And I'm really very, very proud of him and the great life that he's made for himself and the tremendous impact he's made on American youth. Rabbi Posner, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you had to rush back to Nashville, but you were good enough to do me the honor and do a second show with me for tonight. And so I'm sure that our audience is very elated about the fact, and they're all ears to hear what more we're going to be speaking about. But before I get on to the life in Nashville, which I'm very much personally concerned with, I would like to ask you, how did you ever get into the business of translations? Actually, you're a musmach and you're a rav, and where did you get into this? How did you get started on translating works for Chabad?
Well, I felt that Chabad Hasidus has a tremendous message and tremendous importance for the contemporary American Jew. The trouble is that there is a language barrier. It is all written in Hebrew, some of it in Yiddish, two languages that certainly the Nashville Jew has no access to. And that meant that it had to be translated into English. I tried presenting some of the material orally in English, and there was a certain amount of satisfaction, success you might say, with that. I decided to start choosing some classics and see how it goes. I sent it to the Rebbe, and he was good enough to encourage me to continue, and I lived happily ever after.
You lived happily ever after, and many people have lived enlightened happily ever after. And so thank you so much for what you have done. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of patience for a person to do this, especially one who has so many things to offer. To sit down really and lock yourself out of the world, to do something like this is worthy of our praise, and so you got it. Okay, Rabbi Posner, tell me this. How many miles is Nashville from New York?
New York is 1,000 miles away from Nashville.
Did you get the answer, ladies and gentlemen? We are 1,000 miles away from Nashville. Okay, how many Jews are there in Nashville, and how many, what ages is your population of Jewish families made up of?
Nashville is a small town as far as the Jewish community is concerned. We are barely 1% of the population, a good deal less than 1%. Greater Nashville has about 450,000 people. There are, according to best figures available, about 3,500 Jewish people in the city of Nashville, men, women, and children, which means about 800 Jewish families. In other words, a half-decent-sized apartment house in New York City has more Jews than the city of Nashville does. But there is more Jewish activity and there's more Jewish life than you'd ever imagine. We start, of course, naturally with very young children, and it goes up to the real senior citizens and everybody in between. It's a fine cross-section, you might say, of the American Jewish community. If you want to know what American Judaism, the American Jewry is like, Nashville could be, I would suggest, a fine community to study and get insights into what there is and what there was and possible projections for what there might be in the future for many different facets of American Jewish life.
All right, tell me this. What do the people make a living from? What is their main commerce or industry that Nashville is known for?
Nashville has some industries, but I don't know that the Jews are particularly involved with those big things like Ford or DuPont and companies of that sort. There are some that have their national headquarters, Genesco and so on. Jews aren't terribly involved in that. Some are, but not very many. Most of the Jewish people in Nashville you might call middle class, upper middle class. They are professional, they are managerial, they are business entrepreneurs, they own their own businesses, they are business executives, people of that sort. A great number of them own their own homes, or they certainly did it until even condominiums, and decided to move into apartment houses instead of maintaining it. But a very solid, very substantial, very pleasant kind of Jewish community.
Do you have a poor element there too? Would you say that you have poverty-stricken Jewish families, or would you say that the majority of them are not on welfare? And the way you describe them, it seems that most of the Jews are making a fairly decent living.
There are probably you might call poor Jews, but not in the sense that you speak about in the big cities. First of all, we take care of our own people. The Jewish community is so well organized. I don't mean just in technical organization, but organized, prepared to help anybody who needs help. If you find older people who just don't have a home to go to, there are people in the community, representatives of the community, that really take charge. They are concerned about them in a personal, human way, and with real professional competence as social workers, for example, to look into these people's problems, to see what can be provided for them, and they are remarkably generous in money, in time, and above all, in human concern for anybody who needs help. Poverty is not the really pressing problem. There are other human problems that people have, and the community as a community is you might almost say eager to take care of any Jews who need this help.
Rabbi Posner, how long are you in Nashville?
1/4 of a century. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. On December the 1st, they had a big celebration in Nashville for us.
That's very beautiful. Many, many more years of success. Tell me, how did you get there?
The Rebbe sent me, Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. I had just finished the yeshiva, really, and one of the Hasidim was informed by a friend in Nashville that Nashville is looking for a rabbi. There was a vacancy in the pulpit. They wanted someone like him. This chassid had made a tremendous impression on them with his personality and with his scholarship, with his piety. They just wanted somebody like that. They didn't get him, or didn't get anyone like him either, to tell you the truth. But what he did was inform the Rebbe about it, and the Rebbe told me to apply for this position. We were engaged to be married at that time. This is 1949, and I went down to Nashville, got the position, came back, we married, and we've, thank God, been able to raise our family and make what I think is a reasonably satisfying sort of life.
Are you the only Orthodox rabbi in town?
There are 3 congregations. Ours, of course, is the Orthodox shul. It's called the shul, and there's the synagogue. It's conservative, and the temple, that's reform. There's one of each. I say about a small town, and like one apartment house in New York, these 3 congregations are alive, they are bustling, they are active. There is a Jewish community center that involves almost all of the Jewish community, and that's alive. There are all kinds of Jewish organizations, so that the little tiny village of Jewish Nashville provides the whole gamut of Jewish experience and Jewish opportunities. Anybody who wants the maximum, and that's not too much of an exaggeration, can get it in Nashville. You can live as a maximalist Jew and a fine Hasidic type. And if somebody wants to run away from it and hide completely, he can do it in Nashville as well, and anybody in between. It's a warm and pleasant, accepting kind of community, and a lot of it is just left to the individual himself to make the quality of Jewish life that he wants to have.
Rabbi Posner, I myself, as you know, is a rabbi on a pulpit, and being such, I am a rabbi rather on a pulpit. I would like to ask you, in the last 25 years, have you found a weakening of Judaism, a strengthening of Judaism, in other words, more commitment, more identity, or more assimilation to the American way of life? The fact that older Jews are dying off, that younger Jews are coming in, do you think that we have something to look forward to in a township as Nashville, or is this running the regular gamut, Neshvakenim Gedacht, as we find in all out of New York townships, that Nebuch, it's not the greatest story to be told?
There are shadows in the picture, there is no doubt about that. It would be ridiculous to ignore it. But I think it would be fair and honest to say that Jewish life in Nashville in 1975, 74 is far better than it was in 1950. At that time, we had what you might call vestigial Judaism. Jews from Europe who got some in their youth carried on certain practices here. Their children did not. What we have today is indigenous Judaism. We have people who had been born and raised in this country and not necessarily in what you'd call Orthodox families, certainly not observant families, and they're making their way to Yiddishkeit. We had two Shemrei Shabbos in our shul when we came to Nashville. I mean Shemrei Shabbos people who were still active. I don't mean retirees. I mean people who were still active. Both of them were European Jews. One of them a rather recent kind of immigrant just before the Second World War from Warsaw. Today, look around the shul and they'll find a dozen, 15 Shemrei Shabbos on a given Shabbos morning in shul. Virtually all of them, the great majority of them, are young professionals whose parents did not keep kosher homes even. And they themselves live really beautiful Jewish lives all the way down the line.
All right, so give me the answer. What do you attribute this to?
It's hard to give an answer to that. Each one has his own situation. For one thing, there's no need to run away from one's Jewishness. There's no need to hide it. There's no need to obscure it. There's no need to become like everybody else. These people, young people today, are prepared to assert themselves, to declare themselves for what they are. They don't have to fit anybody else's picture of what a good physician or what a good lawyer or what a good professor looks like. We have professors that lecture teach their courses at the University of Tennessee and other schools of that sort and before professional societies with yarmulkes. And if they put their hands in their pockets, you can see their tzitzis are hanging out, and there's no trouble whatsoever. No trouble at all. They don't have to accommodate anyone. They have professional competence, and they have personal pride, and they seem to have no problems with being accepted. This kind of assertion of one's own values, this not belligerent pride, but a straightforward kind of pride in what one is, a commitment to one's values, one's religion, one's identity. It's so heartwarming to see it, and it's accepted by the Gentile world. They don't admire the Jew who is a half-baked goy. They seem to admire a Jew who is a full-hearted Jew.
Well, that sounds really great, and I hope this will be a pace setter for many others who are listening tonight, both the professionals and those who are not professionals, but I think this should give them a little bit of a sense of more commitment. Rabbi, besides your translation work, what do you really spend most of your time with in Nashville?
I keep telling the people always, they understand this, that the meaning of a rabbi, particularly in today's context, in the world of a Nashville, we'll say, the ultimate work of a rabbi is his responsibility for the Jewish welfare of the Jewish community. Now, you'd have to see what the problems, what the needs of the community are, and see to it that they are taken care of. What I see as the overwhelmingly important need of the community is Jewish knowledge as the key to Jewish commitment. Jewish knowledge means that children have to be taught. Jewish knowledge means that adults have to be taught. Jewish knowledge means that students have to be looked for, searched out, and bring something to them. So that probably with the work in the shul and the work in the school, our day school, this would take the overwhelming bulk of the time, But all of it, I would say, objective, the point of it all, summing it up in one word, is Jewish knowledge to the Jewish people. And sometimes this would be by classes, by the school, by writing, and maligned as it might be, the sermons themselves. A Shabbos droshe is an opportunity to instruct a congregation that's present at the time. If I can teach them something, it's been a good droshe. If they haven't learned anything, I was a flop that day.
All right. You're one of the few honest rabbis that I've met in the last 25 years. Maybe that's the reason you come across so well to your audience. Rabbi Posner, do you have a mikveh in Nashville?
Yes, we do.
Is it being used by the women?
Of course.
How many families would you say use the mikveh?
We don't count statistics. There aren't as many as there should be, but there are a lot more than there used to be.
Okay. Do you have a kosher butcher?
The economics of kashrus have changed in the last 25 years. It is a small town, and when I say 800 families, it doesn't mean 800 kosher families. It means 800 Jewish families. Maintaining a Jewish butcher shop for a person to be able to keep a living when you have the changes in the residential patterns and stuff like that with real estate and rent, the economics is a complicated thing. The people who keep kosher find it much easier and pleasant for themselves to be able to bring meat in from large communities where they can get selections and so on. We get them in, some get them in from Atlanta, some get them in from Memphis, some get it in from Chicago, some even get it in from New York, with freezers the way that they are, and with the rapid transportation the way that it is today. Even some of the supermarkets will carry packaged, sealed, glatt kosher meat, for example, from Denver and things like that, so that there's no problem whatsoever for anybody who wants to keep even glatt kosher and Shemitah Shabbos bread and things of that sort. It can be done with a little bit of planning and a little bit of care. We don't have the convenience of walking down to the corner grocery store and picking up all your needs, but our problem is overweight, not undernourishment.
I suppose that's a universal problem. They say no one ever dies from overeating. They die from indigestion or for lack of eating. Tell me this. What about Cholav Yisrael, those of us who are particular in having kosher milk, the special milk that's under the hashgacha of a mashgiach? Do you have any such setup?
We haven't been able to get fresh kosher milk arranged because there are state laws about selling unpasteurized milk, and the farmers, of course, will sell their milk to dairies. The dairies will get, they tell me, from 25,000 farmers into one huge vat, and it's been impossible to do anything like setting up the hashgacha properly. But for those families, and there are a good number of families that do that, use condensed milk or this powdered milk. They get these shipments in by truck of cases and cases at a time, and all of these things are provided. No trouble.
What happens if they have a wedding or a bar mitzvah? Do they have a place where to make a kosher affair?
In our shul, we certainly do, and I wouldn't say that's the only place necessarily. We have all of our meat would be brought in regardless, even when they did have, there was a time, of course, that they had a regular shechita at one of the packing houses and they had a regular butcher shop, but the quantity and the special cuts that you'd want to have for a banquet, for a wedding banquet of several hundred guests, you want to have only a certain cut of meat. You always had to have it brought in. There's no problem. We have certain packers or certain provisioners that would be acceptable in the shul. The caterer just gets from the people that we will approve of, and only the products that are approved. They use the shul kitchen, for example, which is very, very well appointed, a convenient and pleasant place for them to work. And then we have a nice, fine Yiddish simche with everything that you'd want to have.
Okay, that's wonderful. So you can live as a Jew in Tennessee too. It's nicht gefährlich. Tell me this, Rabbi. Let's go off for a moment and speak about your Rebbitzin. Coming from the rabbinic home that she does, from a very distinguished rabbinic family, from Rabbi Kazanovsky and Rebbitzin Kanovsky, or Kazanovsky of Bensnurst, are her parents. Is your Rebbitzin also active in Jewish life out there, or is it just the rabbi's world?
She gives more time to working with the community on all different kinds of levels than almost anybody that I've had any contact with. For example, we wanted to make a day school. Making the day school wasn't a matter of saying, here, you do this, you do that, and giving orders to people. What it meant was that I taught classes, and what it meant was that she organized the kindergarten. She's a fabulous teacher and a real expert in all phases of kindergarten preschool work. And she has been working at that every single day for as many, well, since the kindergarten began. And I guess anybody who runs a home understands what it means that every single day of the week you pull 3.5 hours out, at least 3.5 hours out that you spend in the kindergarten, besides extra time as well, and you know what that means. In addition to that, the sisterhood of the congregation. It's not just an organization, but it's an opportunity to teach the women there. And by the way, a very, very satisfying number of young women are a part of it. You know, this is one of the nice things in Nashville, the type of community where there is no barrier between young women and older women. They'll sit there together and participate together in a very pleasant way, and the young ones have an affection and a respect for the older women, and the older women have such a pleasant kind of relationship with the younger ones. It's a heartwarming sort of thing to see. But the important thing I say is my wife is very active in that, and making this the kind of organization that would help the shul on the one hand, help the families, help the individuals who are participating. She's very active in the different Jewish organizations in the community, providing a Torah perspective in their deliberations and their activities, to see to it as much as possible that one doesn't let technical enthusiasms, organizational enthusiasms run away with them when there's a Jewish factor, a Torah factor to be considered. She has a most enviably honored place in the community, and she earned it and deserved it over these past 25 years.
I'm very happy to hear that, and evidently you must be something special too if the Almighty gave you the real Eza Kenegde, the real person to be your great mate and partner in life. I would like very much to ask, what provisions have you for senior citizens? You know, we here in New York very, very up on this senior citizens program where we have the elderly folks come to the synagogues or the various centers and they meet every day and they have their lunches and programs. Have you got something similar to that in Nashville?
Well, each community has its own needs. Now, for example, we don't have a Jewish home for the elderly, but there is one in Memphis, which is not far away, so that a good number of our elderly people who have to have that kind of facility are sent to Memphis. This goes through the Jewish community itself, the social workers, and it's on an official basis. Again, if there's economic hardship, Nashville community comes to the fore and takes over, does what it must do. For those who are in the city itself, there are, of course, convalescent homes. Now, one of the things that is done for the people who are in these homes is through the community, the Jewish community as such, and then through the different congregations, where people will take time and go there and visit, spend time with them. Sometimes there'll be some sort of a program that's provided for the older people. Sometimes it's just you sit with them in the parlor there, whatever they call that, the visiting room, or if it's bedridden, come to the bedside and talk to them. Sometimes just nudge them to get them out of bed and come on downstairs and let's talk and get dressed. And it's taking a human interest in a person. It's become much more evident, much more necessary in the last number of years. Let's say 25 years ago, you heard very little about this, except for, of course, the Memphis home. Today, it's a live thing. The Jewish Community Center has a Golden Age program, which is very, very active and a very nice thing. Then there are things like men's discussion groups, where they'll get investment counselors to tell them how to invest their stocks, and then all kinds of very interesting, very competent professional people discussing their fields. The people are kept mentally alert, active. There's a whole lot to be done, but the main thing is there are people who are active and eager to do what needs to be done.
What kind of a climate do you have in Tennessee? Is it warm all year round? Is it cold?
On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I have been authorized to tell you that if you want to have an earthly paradise, you are invited to come to Nashville and live with us. The balmy spring winds and so on. It's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer, and it's very nice all the time. It's not as cold as New York, and it's not as hot as the equator, but it's a good place to live.
Now, with that sense of humor, I see how you can win the favor of your people. Rabbi posed a very sad question. What happens if somebody dies? Did I have to ship him to New York to get buried? Do you have a Chevra Kadisha? Do you have a Jewish cemetery? Do you have people to prepare the dead? What happens, Chalila, if a Jew dies?
When that happens, we have a Chevra Kadisha, of course, men Chevra Kadisha. We have a women's Chevra Kadisha. We have a Shomer, somebody that would be with the remains and until the actual interment itself. We don't have a Jewish funeral home, but we take care of whatever has to be taken care of. Each congregation has its own cemetery, and these are actually together. There's one little street that separates two on one side and one on the other side. Then the two that are next to each other are so adjacent you can't really tell which one is which because there's no fence or anything between them. And the community is very cooperative. If they need something, we help. If we need something, they help. But these things don't come up often, but there's a readiness, certainly in a time of distress and grief, so that whatever can be done to ease the troubles of the people is done for them.
I have 1 minute with two questions. Number one, is there a Jewish social life for people, young and old alike? I mean, besides the senior citizen golden age that we heard, but in general, for young people, is there any Jewish social life? And second of all, do your kids have somebody to play with?
There is a Jewish social life. There are some gaps. You'll find for the unmarried, the young singles, let's say in their middle and late 20s, is a problem. There just aren't that many. Many of them leave Nashville and go elsewhere to seek their fortunes. As far as our own children are concerned, we want a particular kind of upbringing for them, a yeshiva specifically, so that as long as our Akiva school is able to accommodate our children, they stay there, but then they go on to other yeshivas, so that one of our 5 children is at home. Our oldest is married. The other 3 are away. One is in Eretz Yisrael, one is in Pittsburgh, one is here in Brooklyn. We have a small but growing number of yeshiva students who attend yeshivas out of town. For those people that stay in Nashville, we try to provide courses, or actually classes for them on a reasonably advanced level, so that they shouldn't lose whatever they managed to learn during the early years.
Rabbi Posner, thank you so much. I'm sorry that I would love to speak to you longer, but time is up. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had the pleasure to have for this last 2 nights Rabbi Posner of Nashville, Tennessee. Remember, once again, if you'd like to get in touch with him, you may do so by contacting our office tomorrow morning, 778-4600. I suggest rather, that you take Rabbi Posner, invite him to your groups, your old and your young. You'll be fascinated with him. He's a terrific speaker, and he is a very rich person in quality. He has a great deal to talk about, a great deal to contribute to an audience. I would like to say that tomorrow night, please God, we're going to have a replay on Professor Decter's show. By popular request, there have been many judges and lawyers who asked for a replay on it, and we're going to have it tomorrow night. I have a friend who always wishes me, on the eve of the new year, a happy fiscal new year, and so let me convey the same to you. And as I once heard, Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchever used to wish a happy new year even on the non-Jewish new year, on the calendar new year. So let's hope you'll all be blessed with all the best in the coming months, and God should give us whatever we need every day of the year. It's been a pleasure having you with us in our audience tonight. Tune in tomorrow night for that special program with Professor Decter, and until tomorrow night at the same time, may God bless you all.